So welcome to Marist College and the 8th Annual Mid-Hudson Regional Business Plan Competition Information Session. I am so excited for all of you to join us tonight. My name is Cindy Warad, and I am the Assistant Dean to the School of Computer Science and Mathematics. And this is my first year working on the Mid-Hudson Regional Business Plan Competition with Roberta Diggins, who has worked on it for a couple of years, so I am depending on her expertise, and I think most of you met her when you checked in. So both of us are, coordinating and organizing, and our contact information is on all of the handouts. So as we go through, if you have questions that aren't answered tonight, please feel free to reach out and contact us. So again, I just wanted to mention that this is the 8th Annual Mid-Hudson Regional Business Plan Competition. The state has competition, or has been going on in the state since 2010. Tonight, just to let you know what we're going to be doing, is we're going to be going over a general information session to begin with, just to go, talk about how the business plan works at the regional level, for the state, how it's connected to the state competition. And then we're going to have a guest speaker, or actually 2 guest speakers. We'll have Dana Jones, who is a past winner a couple times at the competitions, to share her experience with you. And we're also going to have Danny Pataki from XL7, which is an accelerator, incubator, to give some advice and some excitement to get you started, or to be able to share this information with others on how to get started. But before we start with the information session, I just wanted to point out that this regional business plan competition and the state competition would not be possible without the very generous support of our sponsors. Last year's sponsors, I'd like to thank last year's sponsors, and we have some representatives from them. We have Bill Midgley from SCORE. We also have Walter from Small Ball Marketing. I know, so for some of you who might be from SUNY New Paltz, you know Tony DeMarco and Johnny Lahane. They are connected with Hudson Valley Startup Fund, as well as our other sponsors from last year, TD Bank, and Eastern Heating and Cooling Inc., Northeast Ford, and CJ and SL Properties. So just to let you know that this doesn't happen all on its own. We do have a lot of support from our volunteers and our sponsors to make this event come about. So what is a business plan competition? Basically, it is an opportunity, a very unique opportunity for students to participate in a competition where they get to share their ideas, they get to research the market, they get to develop financials, they get to meet and network with like-minded entrepreneurial students, business leaders, government leaders, and get very helpful and valuable feedback from a variety of people to springboard their idea and get their venture off the ground. So who's been involved in this competition in the Mid-Hudson region in the past? Well, we have a number of schools that have been involved, students from these schools, and I think some of them are represented here tonight. So, for example, SUNY New Paltz, they have a course on entrepreneurship, and they've had a very strong showing at past programs. So who's here from SUNY New Paltz? Oh, okay. So maybe their, winning team is going to be knocked out of line tonight by some other representatives. How about, is anybody here from SUNY Ulster? Yes. So we have a mixture of students, advisors that are here tonight. So if you're here as an advisor, hopefully we'll give you some information that you can bring back to pass on to your students and help them build their plan. How about Dutchess Community College? Okay. I know Dana won when she was at Dutchess Community College as well as at Marist. Who's here from Marist College? Oh, excellent. I know. It's a short walk, right? How about Westchester Community College? Vassar College? Excellent. Welcome. Good to see you. Mercy College? Anybody from the Culinary or the Bard? Is anybody from a college that I didn't mention yet? Yes?
The College of Westchester.
Excellent. Westchester, we're so glad for you to make the trek all the way up here. Thank you.
Rockland.
Rockland. Excellent. Another.
SUNY Orange.
SUNY Orange. Yes, thank you. Welcome.
Sullivan.
Sullivan. Yes, this is your first showing, right? So you're newbies. Welcome. Anywhere else? Okay, great. So you'll see that we have representatives from all the different counties in our region. So let's talk about how the regional competition and the state competition are connected. In the state, New York State, it is divided into 10 regions, which our Mid-Hudson region is one of those 10 regions. And included in the Mid-Hudson region are 7 counties: Dutchess, Orange, Putnam, Rockland, Sullivan, Ulster, and Westchester. So the students that we're talking about that are eligible to compete in the Mid-Hudson region competition are students that are in institutions, colleges, universities in those 7 counties. The New York State competition was started in 2010, and then it was expanded into a regional competition in 2013. What have they done since 2010? Well, we've had over 4,000 students pitch their ideas. We've had over 2,500 teams compete in the New York State competition. We have over 132 ventures that are actively or are active at this point. We have over $1 million that have been invested. We have over $2,800,000 that has been awarded in cash and in-kind prizes. And then we have over $45 million that has been raised in investments in capital. So how can you get involved? Are you getting excited about this? Hopefully you are. Well, general competition overview. There's 2 competitions that I'm going to talk about. First is the regional competition that's in our Mid-Hudson region, and that is going to be on April 17th, 2020. We are starting now getting the information out there so that you have time to build your business plan. This competition is going to be hosted right here at Marist College. Then the second business plan, the regional business plan, is a semifinal for the state business plan competition, and that's going to be on May 1st, 2020. So how do you get there? Well, first of all, students compete in 6 different tracks, and we'll go over those tracks in a moment. Students develop their business plan, and we'll go over some pointers tonight on how to get started on that and some of the components that you should be included in that. But students at the competition, they present to a panel of expert judges. Then, while their presentation is 10 minutes, and then they get 5 minutes for questions and answers from the judges. And we have moderators that keep the time very strict. So 10 minutes for the presentation and 5 minutes for questions and answers. And the top 2 teams at the regional level, they get to move on to the state level. So that's how the regional business plan is connected to the state business plan. Well, what are the eligibility requirements? So who is eligible to participate? Well, you have to be a currently enrolled, either graduate or undergraduate student in a New York State accredited college or university in the region. So the Mid-Hudson region, you have to be in one of those 7 counties in our Mid-Hudson region to be eligible to participate. Now let's say you're a student now, but you're graduating in December and you won't be an enrolled student in the spring. That's fine. As long as you are an enrolled student in the 2019 2020 year. You're eligible, okay? Students also have to be the presenters at all levels. You might have a team that's put together with students and some non-students, based on their skill level, but all the presenters at the regional level and the state level have to be all students. Teams can only compete in one region. You might have a college that has campuses in 2 different regions, but you can't compete in both regions. You can only compete in one region. And each student can only compete on one team. You might have 2 different teams that have ideas that you want to compete on, but you can only compete on one team each year. Also, if you've been a past grand prize winner, you're not eligible to compete in subsequent year competitions for the teams. But you can be a judge, you can be a mentor, you can be a volunteer, and we encourage you to participate in other ways. But if you're an individual that did win on a winning team from a past year, you can participate in a subsequent year if you are not with that same team. So you can be on a new team or you can participate individually. Any questions with the eligibility requirements so far? Okay. Just last 2 eligibility requirements that I want to discuss, and that's if you already have a venture that's in the works and you have already raised some capital, it cannot exceed $100,000. Okay? So it has to be $100,000 or less. Also, the student ownership has to be at least 80%, or has to be, at least 80%. Can't be less than that. So I mentioned before about tracks. When you put together your idea, your venture, your product, your service, when you submit your application, you have to submit and choose a track. These are 6 tracks. This is only the 2nd year. These 6 tracks have been in existence. Before them, they had slightly different ones. But with these 6 tracks, the way that you pick which track that you're eligible in is you start at the top of the list and you work your way down. So let's say you pick out an idea, or you have an idea or venture that, for example, is a software app to order a medical tea delivery box, okay, to your home. So that might fall under technology because it's an app. It might fall under medical tech and well-being because it's a medical tea. It also might fall under food. But if you work your way from the top down, it's a tea, it's a food, that's the category that you should submit your application in. If you're unsure, you can always contact Roberta or I, and we can give you some guidance. You can talk to your mentors or your advisors, or you can pick one, and when we get your application and the committee reviews it and feels that it really should be in a different category, we can always contact you to say that, we think that you should switch it. So don't, get bogged down with trying to decide which category or which track that you should submit or you should, compete in. We can help you out with that. Also, with most of this information that we're giving you tonight, it's either posted on our website or there's a link to the rule book, and you can get, more specifics and details about all this information. So the first track is agriculture, technology, and food. And then there's energy and the environment, and then military and first responder, medical technology and well-being, technology and entertainment, and consumer products and services. So let's take a look at what these mean, what these categories or tracks mean, and get some examples that might fit into them. For example, in agriculture and technology and food, it's any idea, technology, process, product, and/or service that relates to agriculture, food production, distribution, and/or food waste. Okay? So for an example with this would be our medical tea distribution service. Right? The next track is energy and environment. So if your venture doesn't fit into the first track, then we would take a look at this one. This is any venture that fits into or is related to energy, clean energy, renewable energy, energy efficiency, environment, and/or sustainable applications. So with this category, an example would be like developing a new type of light bulb, or having battery backup power for an electric car. Those are just some examples that might fit into this category. Military and first responder. Again, if your idea or your venture doesn't fit into the first two categories, we'll take a look at this one. This is any venture that is related to utility workers, first responders, the military, government applications, also transportation industry. So some examples here might be fire-resistant clothing, or a new type of material or glove that utility workers can work with small tools but be safe from being electrocuted, for example. Then the next track is medical technology and well-being. And again, if it doesn't fit into the prior categories, but your venture is related to biotech, sports, medical care, or well-being, including mental health, it'll fit into this track. So an example with this might be a new type of massage mechanism, or an implant to register blood sugar level, or a heart monitoring device. Those are some ideas that might fit into this track. And then the next track is technology and entertainment. Again, if it doesn't fit into the previous categories, it might fit into this one. And these are consumer software, online platforms, entertainment, cryptocurrency, fintech, and music. So an example that might fit into this category is an app that matches up roommates at college, or uses social media to receive payments from friends, or a new musical instrument. One of the winning teams from a couple years ago, they developed a new type of guitar. So. And then last but not, oh yes.
I just had a question. If it has to do with, if somebody's doing something like, let's say they're doing something for music that has to do with like well-being or health related, where would that go? Like if they had a technology thing, it would go up in the health thing first.
Right.
Okay.
So place it there, and then the committee can decide.
I'm not
if
saying that we're doing
Nope.
anything like that, but I was just thinking about the role with music and Alzheimer's and an aging population.
Yep.
You know, I'm trying to reach out to some of the other faculty members on campus and have some ideas.
Well, one of the questions that's frequently asked is about technology, like new apps, new applications, websites, software. So does it go in the technology category, or does it go into, let's say, software that is for food growth management? That would go into food growth management, because the real idea or venture is how that's going to help food, management. So the technology in some cases is not the category, it's more of the tool that's being used in another category. But again, if you have questions, just ask. And last but not least, our category is if it doesn't fit in any of the previous categories, it's usually a product or a service that is utilized by individuals or made for the household. So things like fashion eyewear, or a new backpack that, hosts a camera, or let's say a vending machine that's very specialized. So those are some items that might fall into this category. So any questions about the categories? Okay. Our tracks. So you have your idea, you have your venture, you've gotten your mentors and your advisors. Now how do you put together your presentation? Actually, we're going to have a whole nother session about perfecting your pitch in February, and we'll go over the dates, some important dates to remember. But to get you started, thinking about like building your team, your business model, some of the skills that you might be looking for in your team members, this is just a short outline. And I'm sure Danny Pataki will give you more details and be able to give you more pointers on this as well. But one thing you should think about is what's the structure of your company, okay? What do you need to do, or how are you going to grow your business? Value proposition. What makes you, better than another product in the market? A general description. You should be able to describe what your venture is. Is it a product? Is it a service? Also, included in your business model itself, what is it? How does it work? Do you have an example? Do you have a prototype? Can you show us how it works? Also, what is your competition? What is your competitive advantage? Are there other products out already that exist? What makes yours better than theirs? Markets. What's your target market? Coming out and saying that your market is everybody is not really good, because not everybody's going to love every product that's out there. So think about who your market is, and what your target market is. And then how are you going to reach them? Your customers and sales. When you put all the pieces together for your pitch, for your presentation to the judges, you're going to need to put together a slide deck like this. Also, if you do have a product, bring a prototype if it's available. Show them how it works. It really wows the judges when you do that. So, question. Yes.
If you do not make it into the competition originally with an idea, are you allowed to compete with the same idea next year?
Yes. Yeah. Because that's actually good, because if you don't make it in the first year, it might spur you to make some modifications, some changes, build a stronger plan. Maybe you were missing some components. So the best thing to do is, get feedback, have advisors or mentors look over it to make it stronger. So that's definitely, excellent.
I just want to point out, you can also, if you do get in the competition, you can enter next year with the same idea. A lot of teams will do that. They'll enter 1 year, and next year they'll come back with a fund until they can compete.
Perfect. Yes. And that just shows progress. Okay. So here's a sample format, and yes.
Sorry, one more. Do the teams get feedback from the judges at the end of the competition? If they don't win, they get specific feedback that they felt this was lacking, that was from the judges themselves.
I will have to check on that, but I know they get immediate feedback during the Q&A. And sometimes judges will talk to teams after the fact, because there's lots of times that they can't talk, to them during the competition when their other teams are competing, but after, a lot of times they do approach them and they do give them feedback. But they definitely get feedback throughout the competition, especially when they're doing their Q&A, because the question answer, is 5 minutes, but a lot of times the judges will give them, feedback and, give them especially pointers on what to strengthen, what might have been lacking or what they really thought was a strong point. So that's like one of the best things is having the judges right then and there to be able to communicate those things right at that point in time. So yes. Any more?
Just gonna mention that probably the best time is actually after some of the panels are done, when there's, as you mentioned, downtime in between, there's ample opportunities to network at that point. Refreshments and everything else before the finals and everybody's awarded. That's a really good time, and it's been great to then get into those exchanges about, you might want to tweak this a little bit, or you're really close, but you score really high in all these areas, but not in this one. Students seem to really appreciate that. As a judge since its inception, that always goes over really well. So we make ourselves available as judges.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for that input. Because I know at the regional competition, there's a reception after all the teams have competed. There's a reception to kind of wine and dine you while the judges go in the back rooms and make their decisions. So then the final announcements of the winners can come out because they need that time. At the state competition, they've had, similar things. And like Walter mentioned, that is the best time to, be able to mix and mingle and get additional feedback. So just to go through some things that should be included in a presentation for the pitch. When you have your slides, have your company name, right on top of your slide. So this way, as you're going through it, they're seeing and it's reinforcing who you are. Make sure you have a mission and a purpose. Why are you developing this? How is it going to change the world? Who is it going to engage? How is it going to wow people? Okay. Your business model again. How is it going to be formed to make it sustainable over time? Your product, description of your product, your service. Okay. Markets, who your key markets are. Again, there's details on that. People, who is on your team? What kind of skills do they bring to that team? Commonly, you need a developer. You need a marketing person or a salesperson. You need a financial person, someone with financial skills that can put together the spreadsheet with all the numbers and also explain and talk about all the numbers. Just from my experience, as being a moderator and seeing some of the students present, the financial part seems to be a weakness with a lot of groups. If you think that it's going to take only $10,000 to start up, let's say, a hair salon, where did you get that number from? It's more like $100,000, depending on where it's located and what kind of clientele you're marketing to. It might be $500,000 as startup costs. So really get, do your research, work with an advisor or mentor to get those numbers to be reasonable and be able to speak about them. So you need someone with those skills on your team. And then, what are the achievements today? What are your milestones? Have you had several different prototypes or several different ideas, and have they evolved over time? Talk about that. Where have you been? Where are you now? And then talk about what are the next steps in the future. So those are just some ideas, and I'm sure Danny Pataki will go over those in more detail. And when we have our February 24th Perfect Your Pitch, we'll have two wonderful speakers there, including Jennifer Robinette from Marist College. She's from the Communications and Public Relations school. She's an assistant professor, and she will be going over how to actually fine-tune your presentation, how to wow the judges, how to emphasize key points. And then we'll also have Bill Midgley, who is here from SCORE tonight, and he's going to go through a checklist for you to go over, do I have all the components that are required or should be included in your business plan and your presentation to wow those judges. So what are the judges going to be looking at? Well, again, the things that we just went over, they're going to look at what's the market opportunity. You might have the greatest product on earth, But if nobody's willing to buy into it, why, invest in it? Competitive advantage. What makes your product better than others? Management capability. Again, who's on your team? What's their skills? What's their experience? This is what judges are going to be looking at, and you need to present it to them. You need to show them that you have thought this out and that it's included in your plan. Financial understanding, like I said, have someone that can develop a spreadsheet, a budget, short-term and long-term plans. How is your business going to grow over time? Is it reasonable? Those are good questions to ask. And then the roadmap to growth and strategy. What is your strategy for growing your venture? And then, is it sustainable over time? So those are categories that the judges are going to be looking at. So you definitely want to include those points in your business plan and in your presentation. And why do we do all this? Well, eventually become business owners and make millions of dollars. Well, we all have to start somewhere. So at the regional business plan competition, we give out cash prizes to the top 2 teams. At the New York State business plan competition, they give out more prizes. How much? It all depends on the amount of sponsorships that we get each year. So it fluctuates. So that's one of the reasons why we have, sponsors, so that we can give out cash prizes, so that we can encourage students to reinvest in their ideas and their ventures and continue on and make them grow. But, for example, in the New York State competitions, in past years, they've had over $500,000 given out in cash and in-kind prizes. In-kind prizes, advice, experience, mentoring, very valuable. In past years, we've also had winning teams win over $100,000 in cash and in-kind prizes. So this way, it gives the teams incentive to reinvest and grow their venture.
So if I may, on that slide, just
Yeah.
to crystallize in my mind, so 2 teams from each track go on to represent the state.
Yes. So 2 teams from each track from each region. So it's 2
So we'll have 12
times
from this
6.
region. We'll have 12 from this region.
12 from this region go on, and then 12 from the other 9 regions as well.
Right.
So they're invited or they're eligible to advance. Some teams don't go on to the state competition for various reasons, but for the most part, if they have the funding, if they have the time, they travel, they will compete.
So the purpose of the track really is to open it up. You have more presenters, if you will, and I guess the judges as well specialize in those tracks. Otherwise, what's the purpose of the track?
Well, it's also to compete against similar products or services. I mean, you might have this fantastic new, electronic technology competing against a new plant.
That's it.
And that might be unfair at, let's say, the starting regional level. But when you get to the state competition, the teams compete in their tracks, and the winner from each track, they'll go into like the grand winners, and they compete, one winner from all the different tracks compete against each other for the grand prize.
So the committee is not screening out any redundancies. You could have duplicates, the same idea.
Yes, yes.
Great.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any other questions? So, how do we get from here, November 21st, 2019, to there, April 17th, 2020, and May 1st, 2020? Well, mostly Roberta, and I have put together a timeline to assist you. So today we're having our information session just to go over some general information, get you excited, get you started. And then between now and January, most students will have Thanksgiving holiday, final exams, and then maybe catch up on some sleep over the winter recess, and have some time to think about their venture if they haven't started yet, and start trying to build their team, possibly talking to the advisor or mentors. We also have, that's not on here, we have Tony DeMarco and Johnny Lahane from Hudson Valley Startup Fund that I mentioned before, one of our sponsors from last year. They are going to be organizing an entrepreneur educator forum at SUNY New Paltz in January. So the tentative date right now is January 9th, knowing that's before most faculty are back on schedule. They might change it, but just to let you know, that's going to be a forum held at SUNY New Paltz. I think it's like 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon to 5:30. That's what they're looking at, to get educators together, to share ideas, best practices, and see what each other does at their institutions to try to build the entrepreneurial spirit in our region. So that's not on here, but that's something that is coming up in January, because then all of the advisors and the faculty, if you attend, you can bring back all that information to your students to help them continue their journey. So in February, teams should be working with their advisors and their mentors. And then February 24th, we're going to have another session, which is called Perfector Pitch, right here at Marist College. And that's where we're going to have the 2 speakers talk about how to refine your presentation and do your checklist, make sure that you have all the components necessary to compete and have a strong business plan package to compete with. Then in March, we're going to be holding here at Marist a 1 day of like one-on-one or 2-on-1 or one team with a couple mentoring sessions. And that's going to be organized by Johnny Lahane, or by us with Johnny Lahane and Tony DeMarco and some other mentors that we're getting from SCORE and some other of our in-kind sponsors. But this year, we're also going to expand those mentoring sessions to be held for a day at SUNY New Paltz. And we're hoping to expand that even more to all of the counties in our region, as well as hopefully all of the colleges and universities in our region that have students that are interested in participating. So, by signing in and putting your contact information, you will be getting information about this. If you have student teams that are interested in mentoring sessions that are going to be applying or sending in applications, we will be working with Johnny Lahane and Tony DeMarco to set up those sessions so that the mentors can come to you. Because that's one of the drawbacks in the past, is that students had a difficult time coming here to Marist campus, especially if they're traveling from Westchester or Sullivan County or,
Where are the mentors coming from?
So the
Are they
mentors,
Hudson Valley Startup mentors?
so they're going to be Hudson Valley Startup, as well as, anyone else that's interested in becoming a mentor, especially if they're in a different region. If you are a mentor in Westchester, if you want to be a mentor in Sullivan County, please let us know, so this way we can match you up with the colleges in your county, so it's convenient for the students and for the mentors as well. So that's our vision. But you need to communicate to us so that we can communicate and try to get that match made up. If there's no students that are interested in a college, we don't want to try to send somebody there if nobody's interested. But if you do have students or teams that are interested, we want to be able to supply a mentor. So this way we encourage and we challenge every institution, college, university in our region, in all the 7 counties, to send students this year. So that's our goal.
So So that January 9th thing is called entrepreneur, what's the rest of it?
Educator session or educator forum. So that's going to be for educators. And this way that they can network and communicate and build the spirit to bring back to their students. And then in March, for students, that's the big deadline to submit your application. You can submit it earlier than that, but that's a deadline to submit. The application's online. We don't have the link to it yet. Everything is filtered through the state because all the regions, we all are connected with the state, so they organize all the links for the submissions if you want to be a judge. If you are a student and want to submit an application as a student team, when they supply us the registration links, we will post them on our website. We will also email all of you. And this way you can pass on the information throughout your institutions, your colleges, and so forth.
Quick question, I found all this stuff for 2019, so I'm assuming, is the 2020 stuff up yet, or you're saying that basically it's whatever the state?
Yep.
Gotcha.
So right now, what's on our website, it's in a work in progress. So
Right.
we have like the information session, that's 2020.
Right.
But then some of, like the judges, we haven't recruited any judges because we don't have a link for them to
Gotcha.
register to be a judge yet. So that's still the 2019 judges listed. So it's kind of a mix right now on the website. Yep.
So in the guide out there, all of that's still 2019?
Great question. Actually, the rule book hasn't changed at all.
Okay.
So all the rules, all the information that I've supplied tonight is the same. The only thing is if you look at that rule book from 2019, it has last year's dates
Right.
for the competition in it. So they're updating that at the state level to put in the new dates and deadlines for the state at this point.
Okay, thanks.
So you're welcome. So March 20th, and then between March and April, that's when students should be perfecting their pitches, working on getting ready for the competitions, and that's when the committees will be evaluating what teams will be eligible to compete. Knowing some colleges have had like 70 students, 40 teams, we can't take all of them. It's just not physically possible in the location and in the time frame of the competition. So there is, depending on how many applications, there is a committee that decides which they feel are the strongest to compete each year.
So how many applications do you typically get, and what is the normal range that's ultimately accepted?
Okay, so Roberta.
I think we had 30 or 40 teams, close to 40 teams last year. I think it was 37.
Yep.
And that's a good number that keeps us within our time frame.
And did we get 30 or 40 applications, or did we get like 70 applications?
No, we actually got 30, I think it was 37 applications. But we had one of the schools where they had their whole class and they wanted to send us the teams from the whole class. And we said, have your competition, pick your strongest teams and send them to us. And that's what they did. So we kind of worked with some of the schools and colleges.
Okay.
And I think too, you could enter 2 teams from each school per category. I think that's one of the things that we were thinking about when we were doing it last year. I don't know where I got that number from, but like if we had 2 teams to do the ag and food, then somebody else would have to do something else. So I just remember laying it out, trying to figure out, because for some reason I had that number for each category, 2 teams per school, but I don't even know where I got that from.
No, we didn't limit the categories. It was just, if you had 10 teams from one school, we try to ask them to.
No, we're never near that.
Yeah.
But we could get 3.
And if you notice, last year, we didn't even have any team for the category of military and first responders. So we only had 5 categories. We hope to have 6 this year.
And I mean, if there's only 2 teams in a category, you have 2 winning teams. And then another category, you might have 10 teams, so it might be very competitive to get those 2.
Are teams limited to a makeup within a school? So can a Marist student and a WCC student form a team together?
Yes, we can. My school's done it.
So if you have, let's say, team members from different schools, yes,
Yes, you can.
as long as they're both in our region.
But you have to pick
They're not.
where you're gonna enter.
Right. If you have students that are in schools that are in different regions, then you have to pick one region or the other. Yes.
Is there a limit to the number of students who can be on a team?
No.
No.
Okay. There used to be, but they removed that last year.
Any other questions?
A quick one.
Yes.
What is the deliverable and what's its size? I mean, is it a PowerPoint presentation? And if so, how many slides?
It all depends on how much you can fit in 10 minutes.
10 minutes, right?
And
Not a lot of information.
So is there a second
I can
limit?
address that, I can address that.
perfect. And yes, it's usually a PowerPoint presentation or Prezi or, but again, it depends on what your product or service is, and if you have, let's say, a prototype that you want to demonstrate, you might want to spend more time on that than on the slides. It depends on how many pictures you have, how much information you have to share, but really, the judges are focusing on the information. So regardless if you have 10 slides or 40 slides, you want to have the information as concise and, prioritized as possible to meet the judges' criteria what they're looking for. So I wouldn't recommend 40. And then by April 1st, student teams will be notified if they've been accepted to participate. Final presentations are required to be sent to us by April 8th. And then April 17th is our regional business plan competition. Other regions, they have different dates. They might have different dates for their competitions, so don't get confused with another regional competition. If you see a different date, that's okay. We all, set what's, good for our schedules in our region. And then for those teams, 2 top teams in 6 categories or tracks, they are invited and eligible to move on to the state competition, which is May 1st, and that's at Sage Armory in Albany, New York. So, at this point, I just want to mention again that the application's online, that the deadline for the application is March 20th. Check our website. Right now, we don't have any links because they're not ready yet from the state, but hopefully around January 1st, they will be ready. But I wanted to just mention some additional resources from the library that we have here on campus, that there's, that you can look on our website and get some additional background and resources. And I did have a couple clips to show you from past participants, but I'm gonna skip those tonight because we have a past winning participant, Dana Jones, in person. So I'd like to welcome her up to say a few words about her experience.
All right, hi everyone. My name's Dana. I'm a senior here at Marist College, and I competed in the New York State Business Plan competition for the last 2 years. My first year I was over at Touches, where I won first place for regionals and second place at states for our category. At the time it was IT and software, but they kind of changed that all around. So overall the competition is a great experience. You really get a different kind of real world exposure to how the business world works. You get to meet a lot of really different, interesting people. And the year that I competed the first time, I competed with Accessador. Just as a poll, how many people have heard of Accessador? Yeah, I kind of figured it was going to be a lot. So Accessador is a smartphone application and compatible device. It allows people to open handicap doors from their phone instead of hitting the blue button for the people that didn't know what it was. And we really got great traction for it at the competition. The judges loved it, and we really kind of propelled from the competition and turning it into a real company. We've been up and running for about 2.5 years now, and we are just at the point where we're starting manufacture. So it does take a while, especially when it's only a team of 2 and you're both in college. It's definitely a balancing act, but it really is a great experience. You kind of went over a lot of really good points. To prep for the competition, definitely go to the mentorship sessions. They really can give you a lot of advice, help you streamline your pitch, kind of find your weak areas. But with that being said, also take their advice with a grain of salt. Nobody knows your company better than you or your ideas, so listen to it. Some of it can stick, some of it can go through your ears, but really kind of judge it with how you want your pitch to go. Be ready to answer a lot of questions. They really try to trip you up, which is a good thing, because it preps you for when you're out of college and in a real business setting, but just be prepared to answer a wide variety of questions. During the day of the event, it could be a long day. I remember at States, I was the last competitor to go, and I was sweating it out the whole day. But it worked. It was fine. But just be ready to sit and wait and listen to your competition. I know some people don't like hearing their competitors, but I think it might help you put yourself at ease a little bit if you hear them. And also don't get freaked out about competing against PhD students and MBA students. The year that we competed with Accessador, I didn't even have my associates yet, and we beat out the MBAs and PhDs. So it's not all about big fancy words that you use when you're $60,000 a year tuition. It's all about your idea. You need to sell it to them. If you're going to talk in a monotone voice with no energy, they're not going to believe you. So you need to really put some energy into it and make them believe in your idea as much as you do. And then also during the day, while you're networking, there really is a great audience there. But be careful with who you talk to. I cannot emphasize that enough. For you guys, it's a public event. Anybody can go, whether they're there to help you or maybe take your idea. You never know. So really be careful with who you talk to. Most of the people there want you to succeed, but just kind of feel who you talk to, and if you're uncomfortable, talk to your advisor. Your mentor is there to help you. So kind of just bounce anything off of them if you need any help. And through the advisors that are here from different schools, don't worry, I'm not competing this year. So, you guys are fine. I'm not competing against you. So I think that's pretty much everything. Is there any questions from a student perspective? Yeah.
When you were thinking of inspiration, did you set any limits yourself? Any limits for yourself, or was the sky the limit for you?
Yeah, so I think that's a really great question. And I call myself the traditional entrepreneur, now that I actually am a company. And we're kind of out there dealing with all the seasoned professionals. No offense, guys, but I don't really listen to what you guys do. I just do my own thing. The traditional models are great and all, but you can recreate it. This company should have costed anywhere from $50,000 to $75,000 to start if you follow the traditional model. We did it for $15,000. And that's by doing collaborative learning with different colleges, bringing in different students. Not necessarily giving them equity. We did a classroom final project with professors. Just thinking about it in a different way, especially being a student, you can leverage that to your advantage. And you can kind of cut those costs a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Yep.
Being sensitive to your warning, were you able to get a copyright or patent?
Yeah, so we are actually patent pending. We submitted it in June, so it's kind of anticlimactic to submit patent because you don't hear from them for a year and a half. So you pay them a bunch of money and then you sit and wait. So that part wasn't fun, but being able to kind of get it off our plate was a great accomplishment. And then one other comment, if you guys bring prototypes, which I strongly suggest we do, it really levels you up for your competition. Be very strategic on when you hand it out. When the judges have something in their hand, they're not listening to anything you're saying. So really be careful of what slide you handed out on. Make sure it's not anything imperative for them to hear, like the financial slide or the solution. Kind of make a demo moment so that you can walk them through what they're looking at. And then that way they can follow along and see it in front of them without being distracted from any of the other information you're presenting. Any other questions? No? All right.
So we have another guest speaker here today, which is Danny Pataki, which I think I've said his name. Who counted how many times I've said his name? I lost count. But he is an entrepreneur, an investor, a professor, a managing director of Excel 7.
All right. Let's start with a show of hands. It's going to be strong because we all felt it. Dana, and what she said in her business, she won the competition partly because she knows herself, right? By show of hands, she knows herself, right? So, it came across, didn't it? What's more important, knowing yourself even a little bit more, starting today or tomorrow, to this timeline, right, in March and April? Or being so strict with yourself on the 10 requirements that you need to fill out a slide deck? What's more important? Knowing yourself. That makes it more impactful on the slide deck, right? Okay, so just keep that in mind, because that, at the end of the day, whether someone says no to your idea, the gentleman's name is Martin?
Martin, hello.
From Vassar, right? He might be a winner. Even if they say no to Martin, does anyone know Spanx?
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Does everyone know Instagram? Each company has had over 140 no's. 140 no's. So it might be the first no, then you just tell the next person that that was a failure and you're going to do an even better job, okay? For perspective, that's based on knowing yourself, not based on 10 slides at a competition. However, that's not to knock any of it. It's just to prove a point, right? And what the Stoics have said in the past, I was a philosophy undergrad at Iona College, okay? Brother Robert Durney made me read Latin and Greek, okay? This process will be more like wrestling than dancing. It's going to hurt, and you're going to struggle. You'll have ups and downs. That's what's really important, and that's the value of this competition, just as much as who wins, okay? Although, for the record, because I'll show my cards, I believe everyone, that I believe there should be a winner, and sometimes you don't get the trophy, okay? So I teach my 9, 7, and 3-year-old that currently, okay? So the winners, you'll rise, and that's good. But to keep the 140 no's in mind throughout this presentation and the whole process, because maybe that's just not your time. But keep going. Whether you're a freshman, you know, whether you're enrolled, right, matriculated or not, whether you're auditing and you're going to figure that out wherever you are, sophomore, junior, senior, post-grad, graduate, whatever that is. That's really important for you. here's a framework that I want to try to take, and we're just sparking this today, this timeline. What's happening, I love the question, tomorrow to February, what's the date? 24th. What's happening in that time? We're going to try to, and I was asked to try to generate a little bit between this time so that when you get to the mentors, you can prove to them that you already have something. So let's walk through some of this. The goal, I think, that I'm positing today is to generate multiple ideas. How many people, by show of hands, think that your winning idea comes from your own head? Show of hands. 2, 3. Did it literally come from your own head?
Yeah,
What?
personal experience.
Experience. Okay, good. We're going to get into that. Does validation of that idea, right, because you might test multiple, come from your own head? Or do you need to do what Steve Blank, the #1 entrepreneur, educator in the world from Stanford, right, invested in over 150 businesses, has had exits almost just as many of those. Launched the Design Lab, right, which is a leading institution in Stanford. Says, get out of the building. Get out of your own head. Okay, you have to validate it. So these ideas, just thrown around, are some really famous institutions and companies. Patagonia, Airbnb, Zumba. We'll talk about that one a little bit more. Here is a launching point that you need to ask yourself. So Dana already asked or answered for her, came from personal experience. That then the logic was, other people have that experience. And she doesn't want them to have the same experience. She wants them to have an improved experience, right? So these companies, like Steve Madden, Dyson, right? An example of that is, the founder of Dyson had a contracting or a consulting business for years, 15, 20 years before that. You know what he did? He designed hardware for the home. I mean, doesn't that make more sense now? Right? So then he just said, wait, why don't we just put a ball on this home device? And that was Dyson. He wasn't just sitting around saying, I think I'm just going to try this out and spend all this money, hundreds of thousands of dollars to do that. My favorite example is the juxtaposition, really, between passion and observation. Because most people, if you want to stick with the show of hands, right? You don't have to this time, but ask yourself, how many people think at the foundation or baseline that entrepreneurship is really driven by your own passion? I'm going to get up tomorrow, and I'm passionate about this. And then everyone tells you it's really hard to do that. There's only a small set of companies that come from that. Like Patagonia, Von Chenard was really passionate about the environment. He wasn't passionate about building or crafting the jacket, right? Or the fleece. He wanted to climb more. He didn't want a job. He wanted to climb. He needed equipment to do that. So his passion drove that. You could argue that's really personal experience, though. That's why there's a little juxtaposition there. Zumba, the founder of Zumba, walked in to a class that he was teaching. And it was like, you know, modern day, but this is back in like the 90s. But now what we know is like these classes and workout facilities and whatnot. And he pressed the music as he was hosting the class, and it was the wrong music. And he made up every single dance move during that class. And this is what we're going to get into. Everyone said, this is the best class I've ever had. So he went home, based on that mistake, right? And said, I'm going to build a business around this, multi-million-dollar business, based on a mistake. Or let's say an observation. So you have 3 frameworks. It's not just passion, okay? It's passion, experience, and observation. From tomorrow to February, you should start to ask yourself where you are in that process. And better ideas will come from that. So when I teach at Iona in the Heinz Entrepreneurship Institute, which they will, taught Christoph Winkler, will start to send some teams. The students have to generate 25 ideas. It's the hardest experiment that they have to go through throughout the whole term. 25 ideas. 25. We can't even do that from now until February. I mean that sincerely, because we have to focus on something, right? But it's hard to generate those ideas. The exercise, and why I started with Dana, is do this first hour of the 3-hour challenge, which is from literature and data. One of Diane Neck, one of the leading professors in entrepreneurship, that she talks about sit down for 1 full hour, quiet. That means no technology, no other people. Maybe go to your own space and write your impact statement. Whether that's in bullets, a paragraph, 5 paragraphs, whatever it is. You saw it today that Dana may not have necessarily done that, but she's done it so many times that she probably has that. Can I put you on the spot? Do you have an impact statement? You have an impact statement?
No.
Okay, so that's a good challenge for you too. But it's embedded in your slides, right? It's embedded in your data and your research, but it came across. So that's the first thing, if anything, you should do from tomorrow to February, okay? The other 2 hours, by the way, if you want to look up the 3-hour challenge, is to then be social about it. Go share it with other people based on observation and experience. Get feedback, okay? Then you iterate on your own passion statement, impact statement. But the best ideas are common properties, so second takeaway, okay? So if you're wrestling a lot, you have to go out and talk to more people and engage more organizations and more processes and everything. Engagement is what's going to move you forward. And if you're going to spend the time to do that, you should know a little bit about the potential structure of the business. And I wanted to make this point today because this competition does not necessarily mean you are only a tech startup entrepreneur. Ideas can be planted in, and we're generalizing, 7 types of categories. I don't have to walk through all of them unless someone is fully compelled to ask about a difference or a definition of any category. Okay, yes?
Sorry to be that person.
No, that's good.
Intrapreneurship, that's a very new term.
Okay, great question. Has anyone, perhaps of the mentors, worked in a corporate entity before? Okay, so 3, 4, 5, 6, okay, couple. Internship? Any internships in corporates? Okay. The difference, there's a couple different things, but we'll keep it pretty simple today. Imagine not having any money and trying to launch a business, but instead, a corporate VP, senior VP, executive VP says, don't worry about that. Here's $500,000. We never have solved this problem before. Go do that. But, just like an investor who would give you $500, you need to report to me every quarter. Because if you're spending way too much money, I'm taking that away. Unless the CEO says, I don't care how much money you spend. We need to figure out this problem.
Where is that?
So probably GE. Intrapreneur is entrepreneurial mindset and growth, right? Entrepreneur mindset is growth, right? It's not poverty mindset. It's growth mindset, expansion. Okay? Religious, I go to school, I'm Catholic, I was with Diana. Even Jesus Christ says that, right? The children who are poor, Beatitudes, the heaven is yours, okay? Poverty mindset, simple, simplicity, okay? So you pick some of these, you can plant them within that. How it's applied to this sheet is, and it is there was a list of the sectors. Sorry, I don't have it with me. On that list of sectors, they're not called sectors, they're called categories. You have to pick categories, but then you're also planting them potentially within these structures of business ideas, okay? And that's a process. 2 tools that you can use, and this is the printout that I gave to folks to bring back to the colleges or to students. You have a leg up starting tomorrow. When you talk to people, you can use the empathy map to identify these 4 types of quadrants. So if you have an idea and you settle on something, you can say to yourself, this is not from you, this is about everyone else. What does this person say about my idea, product, or service? You want to get as many quotes as possible from that. What does this person think about this? Okay, so let's give an example. One of our companies is Capri for Girls. Financial literacy for girls between the ages of 14 to 19 who are in high school or just graduated entering college. That's a pretty long sentence, right? She started talking to women, and the women said, I wish I had that when I was 15. Oh my gosh, let's take that quote, go talk to more 15-year-olds. Then the 15-year-olds were saying, oh my gosh, I need this for my first progress. Or if they're 17, I need this to save for a laptop to go to college. So they're already thinking about that. Does everyone get it? Okay? Imagine filling in these quadrants. The harder part is using, and I gave you literally the question for you to spark, is to interview 15 to 20 people. So that when you meet with the mentors in February, you have data that you can give also to the mentors, and they can help you bet more, right? And much better in February. They'll be able to leverage the work that you've done to do that. Heck, you could even launch a full business on this stuff before February, right? Which would make you a top candidate for that application. So that's called the jobs to be done theory that came out of Harvard Business School. Clay Christensen, you can go online, type in Clay Christensen or jobs to be done. And he's going to talk about McDonald's vanilla milkshakes. He was hired in the late 80s, early 90s by McDonald's. He might have been a professor already because he's been there a pretty long time. And back, in those days, you had like a notepad and you were collecting data. So someone would walk outside, and they'd say, hey, what product did you buy today? And they'd write it down. And it just so happens, if anyone wants to take a guess, that vanilla milkshakes was in like the top product list. What time of day would you suspect that vanilla milkshakes were the highest purchase? Looks like you want. Do you want to take a guess at that? No?
Late afternoon?
Late afternoon for what purpose? Energy?
Energy just before dinner.
Energy is correct, but it was 6 to 9 a.m. in the morning. It was mainly white males who wore a blue or white shirt. I'm generalizing there, just to prove it was like on their way to work. Even to the point, these are all these questions, if you look through, that they wanted it for energy, and they didn't want to eat things like a banana or other fruit or a granola bar for simple reasons like, you can eat a banana in 2 minutes. I enjoy the experience of a vanilla milkshake. And it gives me the energy and the sugar that I need, and I don't like coffee, and I don't like tea, and I don't like all these things. Now, imagine 2 of these. They're actually very related, okay? But you can use either to sort of help. Now, imagine if you take the example of one of them on the sheet was like a tea distribution or tea delivery service. Well, go find the people to interview to do this, right? If that's your idea. Okay, any questions on that? We're going to wrap up. Okay, Cicero or Cicero in original Latin, because the C's you have to pronounce. Genius is fostered by energy. This is my favorite all-time quote. You have to get up every day and do this. And you have to find, this is why you have to know yourself. You have to find the time, right? Maybe me a little bit more than you, but students are always straining on time, right? You have to find the time to do other things besides build your business. At Excel 7, I'll open the door for you. The first thing that we tell people when we invest in them, it's nothing crazy. It's one thing. You have to transform yourself just as much as your business. You have to find time to work out, to eat well, spend time with family, friends, go on hikes or in nature, whether it's whatever form of mental wellness, right, meditation or something. Those are the best entrepreneurs. okay? You read and write. I mean, that's Bill Gates. Is anyone watching Bill Gates documentaries? Someone ran into him at the airport that knows him. He had 37 state budgets in his bag that he was reading because he wanted to build toilets, right, for poor people in Africa. So he's studying the state budgets to get money to fund those projects. He finds the time to do that, right? I don't know how much he's working out. I'm not saying you need to, have whey protein and lift, right, and have the radio. I'm still young enough to relate to all that stuff, okay? Super coffee, Kingston Hurley Bourne graduates, Kingston High School, whey protein coffee, right? You can get it in stores around here. They were high school students, they launched the product. $25 million in revenue last year, okay? They find the time to work out because it's part of the product. But if in their interviews, if you go online, Super Coffee, if you watch their interviews, that's where it came from. They were finding time to do other things. So here's a proposed, if you want to take a picture of this, I can also send this, and you can send it out. But here's my proposed breakdown between tomorrow and February 24th. Now you could take one piece of paper per each of these categories and test it out, right? If I get to the prototyping phase and I say I really want to build a new tent, right? Sorry, I just got a business card, but here's my prototype. And this is what it's going to do. And I put a stick on it because it has something else. You could even make it that simple. It gets your brain going, right? It gets everyone involved in the process, and then you show that to other people. So here are the sprints that you could go through. Break things down, right, to smaller elements, and then attack each of those. You know what that's going to do? And I'll end on this. It's going to help you identify what you're not good at. So that don't wait for the mentors. Go to the mentors and say, I went through this process. I interviewed people, I have data. You might even say to yourself, and I'm talking more to the students here, although, I don't know, maybe the mentor has the next big idea. I am setting aside 25 minutes every week to interview 2 people. When you go through this process, you might say, oh my gosh, I know what I want to say, but I don't know how to write my story and vision. I don't know what to say on each slide, 2 bullet points. Go over to the English Literature Department or the Speech Communications Department and talk to someone and recruit them, because that's what they're an expert in. It's the same, almost the same type of process in corporate, nonprofit, public, private sector. Okay? That's why Deloitte and IBM are so innovative, because they allow their consultants to go in and out of all of these different projects, and they recruit each other. Okay? But you have to, I'll return to this, you have to, and I'm done after this, but you have to return to what I started with. Everyone felt that Dana is working on this all the time because she knows a little bit more about herself. And I hope I brought that out today with some pragmatic steps that you can take starting tomorrow. So I'm going to get every student's phone number in here. I'm going to call you tomorrow and say, it's Friday at 7. Are you still doing this? Did you interview 10 people today? I'm just joking. But I mean sincerely, I will give you my info and you can contact me with any questions. And there's already mentors here that would probably love to get an update in a couple weeks to see where you are with this. So cheers to you for wanting to be involved. Thank you for the time. And I appreciate everyone listening. Okay.